So not only has a $603 billion bank quietly began buying Bitcoin, but we've actually had a second state pension fund in America has also began buying Bitcoin. And we're also going to be having a look today at why 400,000 Bitcoin were just accumulated by this smart money. And that, of course, is the long-term holders. So today, we're going to be bringing you up to speed on all of the bullish developments that have quietly occurred this week that I think have gone unnoticed. While everybody was focused with the Bank of Japan, Bitcoin has quietly popped its head back up to $60,000 a coin. So let's begin with the big news. The big news is that Wells Fargo has been quietly buying some Bitcoin. We put out this article here on the bitcoinnews.com website. And as you can see, in a 13F filing in May, Wells Fargo quietly disclosed that it had invested $141,000 into Grayscale's Bitcoin ETF. At the bottom of this article, we can see Wells Fargo's investment in Bitcoin ETFs is a landmark decision that will likely have far-reaching implications for the financial industry. So why do we think it's going to have far-reaching implications for the financial industry? Well, it all has to do with what I've got on screen right here. And that is the fact that Wells Fargo is a $603 billion giant. This is how many assets under management the bank has. It is enormous. It is in the top 50 biggest banks in the entire world. Okay, so now that we have Wells Fargo also quietly appearing to copy BlackRock's Bitcoin strategy, things are getting pretty interesting here. Things are getting very, very interesting here. We jump back on over to this website. We can see here, Wells Fargo is one of America's oldest and most prestigious financial institutions. And they are now offering the Bitcoin ETFs to its clients. For a financial giant like Wells Fargo to step into this space, it signals a profound shift in how institutional investors view Bitcoin's potential. But it isn't only institutional investors. I don't know, can we call a pension fund an institutional investor? What we can call them is a large asset allocator, a very large asset allocator. And we can see here, the Jersey City Pension Fund is also invested in Bitcoin ETFs, okay? Who remembers what happened earlier in the year? The first big pension fund to invest into these Bitcoin ETFs was, of course, the Wisconsin US Pension Fund. This is the, what was it, ninth largest pension fund in America, and they bought a lazy $160 million worth of Bitcoin for their pension fund. And they said they actually wanted to 10x that allocation into Bitcoin. And it appears as if maybe, just maybe, other pension funds are also paying attention to what the ninth largest US pension fund is actually doing. So we can see here, on July 25th, Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop announced that the city's pension fund would allocate a percentage of its assets to Bitcoin ETFs. This decision follows a similar move by the Wisconsin Pension Fund earlier in the year, okay? So this guy has been the mayor, so to say, since 2013. So he's been there for 11 years. So I think that's interesting. And we can see here, while the exact percentage of the fund to be allocated to Bitcoin ETFs has not been specified, Fulop indicated it would be similar to the 2% allocation made by the Wisconsin Pension Fund earlier in the year. Have a think about that for a minute. What happens if every pension fund around the world wants to get a 2% allocation to Bitcoin? All of a sudden, things are getting pretty interesting, don't you think, guys? I think things are getting very, very interesting. In a live stream a little while ago, we actually ran the numbers behind one of BlackRock's portfolio allocations. And we said, look, BlackRock's suggesting that a 30% allocation to Bitcoin is not unreasonable. That was the exact words from a BlackRock analyst and quants. And we ran the numbers and we showed you guys what would potentially happen if the entire world and all of the money managers wanted to copy BlackRock and allocate a 30% allocation of all of their funds into Bitcoin. And we showed you the 0.1 Bitcoin would quickly become generational wealth because that would actually send Bitcoin to $48 million a coin, as shown by this little video here that we did a few months ago. I might pop that in the live chat for you guys to check out if you want to get bullish this Friday afternoon. Happy Friday to everyone tuning in, by the way. But again, this is how trends begin. Okay. Again, what happens if all of these pension funds want a 2% allocation to Bitcoin? All of a sudden, things were going to change very, very quickly. Okay. It becomes a trend. Okay. I believe I actually have a quote for you guys. We can see here, when one person adopts a trend, it's just an action. It's just a random outlier action. But if two, maybe it becomes a coincidence. We have two pension funds adopting Bitcoin in America right now. Sure, we could write that off as a coincidence. The mainstream media will. The mainstream media will say these are just irresponsible asset allocators. They're speculating on volatile assets like Bitcoin. All right. Two can just be written off as a trend, but three, yeah, I'm not so sure. If we do see that next pension fund in America FOMO into Bitcoin, it would suggest that maybe, just maybe, we have a trend of big buys into the Bitcoin space. The reason we're looking at pension funds is because they are typically one of the safest investors around the world. Okay, they're investing for people's retirement funds. They have to be very safe, very prudent with what they do. Remember early in the year, we actually looked at why Japan's $1.7 trillion pension fund is quote unquote investigating Bitcoin for diversification strategies away from the Japanese yen. Again, ask yourself, if they're announcing this publicly, you really think that the big boys in charge of what that $1.7 trillion pension fund in Japan is doing don't quietly have a bag of Bitcoin? I think you're crazy if you think they don't. Now, I want to talk a little bit more because we're talking about the fact that maybe we're about to see a trend in pension funds gaining interest to Bitcoin. We know we already have a trend in regards to public companies. For a very long time, we only really had companies like MicroStrategy. Sure, Tesla did a little bit of Bitcoin in early 2021 when Elon Musk bought about $1.5 billion for, was it Tesla? And he also bought some Bitcoin for SpaceX, his private company. And then we obviously had Square, CEO Jack Dorsey bought a little bit of Bitcoin for their company, but we haven't really seen an acceleration in that trend. There's been so little public companies that you could have just written it off as a coincidence, okay? But I think earlier this year, things started to change in the public corporation space. We saw Semler Scientific, $200 million market cap company FOMO into Bitcoin. Metaplanet, their stock price has been going absolutely bananas right now because they too, publicly traded company in Japan, have been buying aggressively. They've been buying a lot of Bitcoin over the past, 3 to 4 months. They've been like MicroStrategy. They've just been dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin. I'm trying to pull up a chart. I apologize if I look a little bit distracted. I didn't plan on showing you guys the Metaplanet chart, but boy, that's a seesaw. That is. So this here is the chart of Metaplanet. This is the stock price of the publicly traded Japanese company who began buying Bitcoin earlier in the year. I think if we were to maybe point an arrow on the chart where they began buying Bitcoin, you could probably tell where it was. It was all the way down here when their stock price was maybe at around 15. Looks like they had a stock split. All their price has gone absolutely bananas. Okay, so their stock price has gone from 200 to 1200. So that's a 6x. Think about that. Just a lazy 6x. Not bad. But again, Semler Scientific, Metaplanet, DeFi Technologies, Bitcoin Depot. We also have another funnily Boya. I can't pronounce Boya. Is that the name of the other publicly traded company in Europe who've also adopted Bitcoin? So again, that's 5 new public corporations adopting Bitcoin in 2024. That's a trend. That is no longer a coincidence. Okay, MicroStrategy is no longer alone. Are we about to see a trend in public corporations and pension funds getting into Bitcoin? Potentially. And again, this would really signal a shift. I really love this video here. This is producer Pam actually made this one. But as El Salvador was dancing alone on the hill for a very long time. Maybe, just maybe, Javier Milei may join him soon and maybe welcome Bitcoin as legal tender in Argentina. He's already deregulated Bitcoin in Argentina. He's already confirmed it can be used to settle financial contracts in Argentina. Not quite legal tender, but again, maybe we're going to start to see a trend in nation states also adopting Bitcoin. Again, guys, I'm trying to show you guys all of these receipts because I kind of feel like maybe, just maybe, we're getting close to a tipping point. Okay, things are changing pretty quickly. And I think a lot of people have those, linear focus goggles on. They assume that these theories of diminishing returns are going to last forever. They assume that these power law models are going to hold true forever. I'm not so sure about that. Let's have a look at some more really bullish developments that have happened this week. So new wallets with over 1,000 Bitcoin in them continue to go absolutely parabolic. 21,000 Bitcoin taken off the exchanges this week. Also, incredibly bullish. Who is it? I don't know. Could be Mr. 100. Mr. 100 just bought 3,400 Bitcoin in a week and 2,800 Bitcoin in the past 48 hours. We've done a ton of videos looking at why Mr. 100 could actually be a pretty good short-term, price indicator, so to say. Again, nobody knows where the price of Bitcoin is going in the medium term or the short term, but we've showed you videos showing that every single time Bitcoin has a big dip, Mr. 100 loads up, absolutely loads up. And Bitcoin seems to recover pretty quickly after that, which is just interesting. Okay, I always find it funny watching what Mr. 100 is doing. And we have some more absolutely bonkers charts that I want to show you guys in a minute. In particular, this one. Long-term holders are really buying Bitcoin. Before I show you guys what the long-term holders are doing, I want to give a massive shout out to our show sponsor, of course. That's Rhino Bitcoin. For those who don't know, Rhino is a Bitcoin banking solution that combines the traditional financial services with the power of Bitcoin. So Rhino is created by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. They actually offer a range of different services for you guys. You can buy Bitcoin, you can sell Bitcoin, you can withdraw straight to cold storage, and you can even pay other people using the Lightning Network, which is really cool. You can do other cool things like purchasing gift cards on Rhino with Satoshis, and you can even connect to companies like Casa for multi-signature security, which is really nice. I'm a big fan and big advocate of multi-signature. I think it's a very nice solution that everybody should investigate. And again, pretty soon, you're going to be able to even pay bills, borrow money, and save Bitcoin for your retirement, all in the one seamless, secure application. So if you guys want to check it out, visit rhinobitcoin.com to download Rhino today and experience the future of Bitcoin banking. So many people want to know, what does Bitcoin banking look like in the future? How do I borrow money on a Bitcoin standard? And I think there's a lot of very interesting Bitcoin-only companies beginning to build out that future. And I think Rhino is one of those companies you guys should definitely check out. So that's going to be linked down in the description of today's video. Check them out. They're a great company. Now, let's talk more. I teased it a bit. This chart here is incredible. It shows very, very clearly that 184,000 Bitcoin were just bought by long-term holders over the past 2 weeks in this recent dip. So while everybody was freaking out, all of your macro gurus were unwinding that, $20 trillion carry trade. People were dumping all of the leveraged trash they had. Long-term holders, aka the smart money in Bitcoin, were actually buying the dip pretty aggressively in a very, very big way. 180,000 coins is a lot of coins. That's nearly as many coins as Michael Saylor holds. For context, okay? Why do you think they're buying that amount of Bitcoin? I think All Night High sums it up nicely here. Bitcoin is mathematically a better asset rather than some theoretical or speculative asset. Corporations will catch on. That's true. It's very true. I think we're seeing a very large divergence in how Bitcoin's price is acting as opposed to its fundamentals. So the underlying fundamentals of Bitcoin, as we can see, every time the price of Bitcoin dips, 180,000 Bitcoin are ripped off the exchanges and accumulated by long-term holders. And they're just quietly draining those exchanges. Again, there's about 2 million Bitcoin on exchanges today. There was 3.1 million Bitcoin on exchanges back in 2020. 35% of the coins are gone. Really think the Bitcoin price is being, let's say it's being dominated. I'm not going to say manipulated, because futures and leverage, it's all part of a free market. But I think Bitcoin's price has been dominated by short-term speculators. And I think a lot of people are still assuming that Bitcoin's just this, speculative risk-on asset. It's just a tech stock because it trades like tech stocks. I'm not so sure. There will be a day when the underlying fundamentals that we continue to highlight for you guys on this channel will actually begin to dominate the Bitcoin price. Right now, it's probably still dominated by speculators. but just wait until the number of Bitcoin on exchanges significantly and continues to decrease. Things could get interesting. Things could get very, very interesting. Elaine makes a really great comment. Welcome, Elaine. Hope you're having a good Friday. I'm actually surprised it took smart money so long to figure it out, or it was part of a strategy. Now, you guys know I love rabbit holes here on the channel, and I think that's interesting. Okay. Again, I think the timing of everything that happened in 2021 and 2022 that cut Bitcoin's bull market short was interesting. That's all I'm going to say. I think it was interesting. China bans Bitcoin mining nearly at the same time. Elon says he's going to stop accepting Bitcoin for payment at Tesla. It's interesting. A lot of people have looked into the background of Elon Musk and shown that, hey, you know, maybe there's a few connections to China with Elon Musk. Was that part of a coordinated strategy to suppress the price of Bitcoin? Who knows? We do know that Sam Bankman-Fried in 2022, during that bear market, he was aggressively trying to sell Bitcoin to keep the price under $20,000. That was actually, that's a direct paraphrase from a conversation that he had with Caroline, who was in charge of the executing the trades over at FTX and Alameda. I mean, I don't know. You know the quote we talked about earlier. When there's just one thing, sure, maybe it's just an outlier. It's just an outlier event. When there's two, maybe that's a coincidence. Maybe, just maybe, you can write that off as a coincidence. But three things, three very interesting things with three very interesting people who all have very interesting connections to certain parts of globalist organizations around the world. Is that a trend? I don't know. I'll let you guys be the judge of whether or not the smart money created some sort of interesting plan to suppress the price of Bitcoin over the past few years so they could actually accumulate Bitcoin before they launch their Bitcoin ETFs. Again, we don't need to go through all of the connections that Elon Musk has with ESG and BlackRock's ESG agenda and all of the webs there. I'm sure you guys get it. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole today. But again, I think maybe, just maybe, there was a coordinated effort to suppress the price of Bitcoin over the past 2 or 3 years to allow these big guys to, as All Night Hider says, buy the dip. So thank you for that comment, Elaine. Elaine's also said, I've looked deeply into Musk. He's not what most people think. I agree. He's an interesting character. That's all I'm going to say. Anybody developing a brain chip that's being implanted into people should be watched closely. That's all I'm going to say. So this chart here is a really cool chart as well. And this dovetails along the bullish theme of today's video, discussing all of the things that we think were missed. This chart here shows that Bitcoin over-the-counter balances hit a 2-year high of 328,000 coins recently. It's interesting. There's a lot of action happening behind the scenes on over-the-counter trading. It's fascinating. Certainly interesting. Let's check on the live chat. This is busy for a Friday. Rexona 72 hours. Someone who has not missed one of these live streams in a long time. Good to see you again. You think Argentina adopting Bitcoin as a currency or even put it in their reserves could trigger neighbor nations to also do it? Yes. I actually think that Latin America will be one of the quickest adopters of Bitcoin. If I were to try to do a little bit of multitasking here, there was a really cool chart being circulated in 2021, just after Bukele adopted Bitcoin as legal tender. And it was actually showing all of the other nations who had politicians and government officials who were adopting laser eyes on their Twitter profiles and even trying to push Bitcoin-friendly laws into action in their respective countries. You guys can see here, Mexico, Nicaragua, Panama, Venezuela, Brazil, Argentina. This chart doesn't even include Paraguay, but this was just a list of countries that had rumors and speculations being floated by people high up in government, politicians, okay, who were supposedly very, very interested in what Bukele was doing. And I think the only reason we didn't see more of these copycats is, A, it takes time. It takes a lot of time for these big movers and these big countries to really adopt Bitcoin in a big way. You can't just do it in 3 months, okay? You need more time than that, which is kind of what was shown by this most recent frenzy of public companies adopting Bitcoin. It takes time. It took 2 or 3 years for these 4 or 5 public companies who have entered the Bitcoin space this year to enter the Bitcoin space in a big way. It really does take time. And I think it takes just as much time for a country, even more complicated, even more politics. So, and I think the only reason we didn't see more adoption was maybe because the bull market got cut short. Everybody was dunking on Bukele when he adopted Bitcoin at $51,000 per Bitcoin and gave all of the citizens $30 a Bitcoin in the country. A lot of people were dunking on him for a long time. But guess what? The Salvadorians who held onto that $30 a Bitcoin back in 2021, they're in the green today, baby. Bitcoin's back at $60,000. That $30 is probably worth maybe $40, $36, $37, quick maths. So to answer the question, yes, if we saw a lot of interest from a tiny country, El Salvador, in Central America with 6 million people adopting Bitcoin as legal tender, I cannot imagine the FOMO that would happen if a country with 45 plus million people in South America adopted Bitcoin in a big way. Again, the capital city of Argentina, Buenos Aires, used to be one of the richest cities in America, in like the whole continent of America. Used to be one of the richest cities. I think Bitcoin might be able to help Argentina regain its wealth. Certainly some interesting things happen in Mexico. Elaine's doing a lot of the deep dive and research in here for the channel. I'm actually considering making a video looking at all of the interesting ties of what happens, what recently happened in the Mexican presidential race. She's a left-wing president, and there was, let's just say, a lot of interesting events seem to happen in Mexico around that election, or leading into that election, I should say. Someone else who does a lot of, let's say, deep dive research and is able to join a lot of dots, like none other, is someone like Tom Luongo. Again, if you guys missed that interview with Tom Luongo, we popped that out a few days ago here on the channel, and we wanted to expose who broke the financial markets with that yen carry trade and who actually, let's say, attacked Donald Trump. I'm going to be careful with my words. But again, if you did not see that video, I'd encourage you guys to check it out. Tom Luongo, he's a firecracker. As my buddy Brandon says, he's a wild one. He really is a wild one. So I popped a link for that video in the chat somewhere around there for you guys to check out, for those who haven't seen it. And with all that said, we got 1,156 of you guys in the live stream. Welcome. Hope you're enjoying your Friday. If you're new here, you can feel free to subscribe. Maybe YouTube's going to notify you when we go live. We put out 3 videos every single week, breaking down all of the Bitcoin signal that we think is being overshadowed and missed in the Bitcoin space. We like to cover the news in, let's say, a little bit of a let's say, more time condensed way. This live stream is about 23 minutes. They're not normally that long, but with all that said, guys, if you enjoyed the video, we'd appreciate if you slap a like on it. We think that helps with the YouTube algorithms. Honestly, I'm pretty sure it does. And as All Night Hider says, smoke that like button like Cheech and Chong. I actually don't know what that means. I don't know what that reference is. Maybe All Night Hider can let us know in the next live stream. But with all that said, guys, thank you so much to everyone who joined in. Check out Rhino Bitcoin if you